This week in church history, William Carey developed what has been called the deathless sermon. 233 years ago, in 1792, William Carey addressed a congregation of ministers and potential missionary supporters, and he preached from Isaiah 54, verses 2 to 3. You can go and read it, and you will ask, what in the world has this to do with world missions? Well, William Carey made the tremendous exposition and exhortation in his sermon that left such a great impact that its skeleton, right, the outline of the sermon, or the subtitle or the summary of the sermon has been quoted millions and millions of times and is still in frequent use today. You would have heard it, very likely. It's this: expect great things from God, attempt great things for God. That was the summary of his sermon. We don't have the transcript surviving today, but that was the message that he preached to a young missionary society. William Carey was converted by separatist Christians, those who were not a part of the Church of England formally at the time. And he had actually started reading in his early Christian years Captain Cook's voyages. And that gave him a heart for the nations, and reading about the savages or the natives, whatever Captain Cook would call them, he had a heart for the nations to bring Christ to them. He was rather poor. He was a cobbler. He made shoes, and he stayed fairly poor because he would use much of his money, even while he was married, to buy books and to study, and he eventually became a Baptist minister. Hyper-Calvinism was on the rise in William Carey's day. That's this kind of view that says that, well, God's sovereign. He'll save people when and how he chooses. We don't need to bother ourselves too much with the means or with the how or with the methods or with the mission. Jesus will do it. He's sovereign. He's chosen his elect, and I'm sure he'll save them. Have another cup of tea and scone, old William Carey. And that was exactly the kind of response that he anticipated and received when he first published and preached his treatise called, well, it was really a short pamphlet, became a short sermon, an inquiry into the obligations of Christians to use means for the conversion of the heathens. In early May 1792, he preached this at a congregation of Baptist ministers and pastors who were very hyper-Calvinistic, who were not sending missionaries to the nations. And William Carey argued that Matthew 28, the Great Commission, is binding on every generation of Christians, not just the early church, not just the apostles. And in response to this, an older minister stood up and cried out, "When God pleases to convert the heathen, he will do it without your aid or mine." That was the general notion and idea in the air of the day. But William Carey wasn't deterred. He ended up editing and then publishing that sermon as a pamphlet. And then he arranged and organized a missionary society of Baptist ministers and supporters in London. And then he had an inaugural meeting with those ministers, and it was then at that meeting in late May, this week, 233 years ago, that he preached what became his deathless sermon. Let us expect great things, and let us attempt great things. It was only the very next year, so he was a determined, expectant man. It was only the very next year that William Carey went in 1793 to the land of India by boat with his 3 boys and his pregnant wife and a surgeon friend. One writer says this: William Carey's greatest legacy was in the worldwide missionary movement of the 19th century that he inspired. Missionaries like Adoniram Judson, Hudson Taylor, and David Livingstone, among thousands of others, were impressed not only by Carey's words, but also his example. For he spoke and showed how to expect great things and attempt great things. The history of the 19th century Protestant missions is in many ways a mere extended commentary on William's original phrase. In the 19th century, that is throughout the 1800s, there would eventually be well over 15,000 missionaries sent out by the Protestants of largely England, as well as America and Europe. Millions of Christians are presently worshipping Jesus in India because of William Carey, in Burma because of Adoniram Judson, inspired largely by William Carey, in China from Hudson Taylor, who came in the same movement, in the Pacific, like with John G. Payton, in Madagascar after David Jones, and in Africa after David Livingstone. Millions of Christians in these areas because of the pluck and the preaching that was inspired by the Holy Spirit through this man, William Carey. Right now, that's a great challenge to us as at Hope Church, or wherever you're listening from. It dares us to think great things about our missions into different areas of unreached people groups around the world that we presently have, about our church planting measures, seeking to see churches planted across southeast Queensland. It makes us and commands that we think about our local evangelism attempts and expectations. We must honor God with a faith that expects great things. And we must honor God with a spine and a spirit that dares to attempt great things for God. So in William Carey's deathless words, expect great things from God and attempt great things for God.